Ridecast bonus episode number 2, the Marji Gesick pre-ride with Kristy McBride. So Kristy's, for those who don't know, Kristy McBride is a Marji Gesick winner, and she has been working towards getting the buckle, being the first female to buckle the Marji. And so we're with her today on one of her training rides.
I saved it.
Yeah, that was a good save. To see what the Marji is all about. Today we're riding the last 20 miles, which is known as the hardest section of the course. And it's not necessarily just because it's got the most feet per mile or is the most technical.
Which is both.
Which is both. But it's also because it's later in the race. It's the end. You're tired. It's been a long day already. For those who don't know, to buckle the Marji, you need to do it under 12 hours, and it's typically around 109 miles through terrain like what we're riding. 90% single track. And Jeremiah Bishop has dubbed it the hardest single day race in the United States. So we're currently on a trail called Grandview, which starts by climbing up a ski trail for about a kilometer or 3/4 of. Then we break off into some very technical single track. Kristy is riding a Mach 4 SL, which is her preferred Marji race bike, although she did do the Marji last year on a Pivot-less SL, hardtail. I am on the new Shuttle LT Pro XO build, so running transmission, Bosch motor, CX race motor. It is also a mixed wheel, and this is actually my first ride on this bike, so it's been fun to really test. But so with Kristy being, I'm gonna say it, kind of a legend in the area, we thought it would be a great time to ride with her and see what her thoughts are, what she does for training to get ready for the Marji, her thoughts on tires that she's run in the past or plans to run, and probably what type of bike is a good bike to select for Marji. So without further ado, I introduce you to Kristy McBride. What do you got to say? Or not much, because you're climbing a hill.
Climbing a hill, it's a good time to talk. Yeah, I guess to start, let's talk about bike choice.
Yeah.
Because you brought up the fact that I did ride my hardtail last year. For 90% of people, I would say full suspension is the way to go. But you can ride Marji on any bike you're comfortable on. You might walk more spots if you ride a hardtail that maybe you wouldn't walk on a full squish. But, you know, you save some time on the 2 tracks and roads, which is why I chose it. Because for me, power output is my weakness. And I ride these trails enough to be pretty comfortable ripping the downs on my hardtail. I think I'm going back to my full suspension this year, mainly because it beats you up a little less. And I had some leg cramping last year that may have been due to just all the extra work my legs had to do while riding the hardtail down to the stuff.
Yeah, on a hardtail, I mean, your legs are the suspension. So while they're more efficient in areas, they're less efficient in others because your legs have to do so much more work to absorb the bumps And even like on the technical climbs, a full suspension will give you more traction.
Yeah, and from a fun standpoint, the race is just way more fun on a full squish. On the hardtail, I was, having to really brace on every bump the whole way.
Right. Well, and I think what you're doing right now, your technical riding skills are good, like very good, and there's not a lot of climbs that you need to walk. But when doing a race like Marji, sometimes we gotta swallow that pride, and rather than burn a match trying to pedal up something, be okay with just getting off the bike and walking it real quick.
Yeah, for sure. It just, there's climbs out here that I normally make and practice that during the race, I just don't have it or don't want to try.
Right.
Because how much effort it would take.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many matches we have in our book to burn.
I almost just pulled
burn
an
them all
LJ.
early on in a 100-mile race. Well, hey, dear. That the rest of that race, especially when it's one that gets harder as it goes along, like this one, the rest of that race is just going to be worse.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, so I mean, whatever bike you're comfortable on. I mean, most people run some sort of bigger travel XC bike, so like 120, 120.
yep.
This bike is 120, 116, the way I'm running it. I think having a 120 fork is smart. I wouldn't be comfortable with a 100 mil fork, but I know some people are.
Yeah, typically the cross-country bikes, we sell from the shop, unless they're doing very specific race types like the Nika races. Most of the cross-country bikes we're selling are going to have a 120 fork these days.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a Fox 32 that I do run for easier stuff like Iceman and Ore to Shore.
I'm taking the big rock roll.
Going this way.
Hey!
I'm on Marji course. Whee! On to Carol Jackson. Woo! So I guess the next thing about bike setup is tire choice.
Yep.
Last year I rode Icons, and that's what I have on today. I have been pretty darn happy with the Icons.
Yeah.
I feel like they're a good mix of grip and rolling resistance. They do okay if it's a little wet. So I don't know, I might run these again this year, but I am trying some different things. I know a lot of people run Aspens. I like Aspens out here if it's dry. If it's wet, they're not my favorite. I've rode Recons in the past. I've rode Sierras in the past.
The year you won the Marji 100,
was on Sierras.
You were on Vittoria Sierras.
Yep.
And it's not the fastest rolling tire, but in the dry conditions,
it does really well with gripping.
It has oodles of climbing traction, lateral traction, and it's still a very fast rolling tire for what it is.
Yeah, I was happy with it. It's all about trying to find that balance of grip and rolling speed. Depends a lot on what your goals are and what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah, and I would say for most people, Marji is not you're going out trying to win, trying to buckle. You're giving yourself a personal challenge and testing your limits. Like, can you complete it? That's what it is for most people.
For sure.
So,
for most people, using a grippier tire is going to be better.
Yes. And there are some riders who can get away with running a really lightweight, not grippy tire. I believe there was somebody who rode it on Aspen STs.
Just in the rear, I believe.
Just in the rear.
Mackie did last year.
Okay, so, but that's a tire that most people wouldn't consider riding in this terrain. So I think if someone's going to try to ride that tire, they need to have really good bike handling skills. Not just cornering, descending, but like being able to do the techie climbs with maintaining a balance of power and traction to the rear. So, based on the tires you've run, what would you say is a safe all-arounder for people to try?
If it's dry, I think the Sierra is great. Sierra does good on like wet dirt. It's a little sketchy on wet rocks.
Yeah, there's certain wet rock it does fine on, and other stuff it definitely lacks in traction.
But I mean, most people, if it's raining, aren't going to be riding a lot of that stuff anyway. So it still could be a good choice.
Yep. So a second choice that's a good all-arounder, I would probably, with my experience riding the trails, while I haven't done the Marji, I know the trails like the back of my hand on this end. And I run the Icons a fair amount.
Yep.
On my Element. I am in the process of testing the new Continental Dubnatal, or Dubnatal, however it's actually pronounced. And have been happy with that.
Yeah, I'm excited to try that.
Lightweight and very fast rolling, yet it doesn't seem to lack grip as of yet on anything I've ridden on. Well, that's not true. No, I did find a little bit of weakness in some sand.
And they've got some different options on that to go with, like thicker casings and a more grippy compound. So I think there's some different things to try with that tire. And maybe different, running it different front to back. You know, I want to make sure my front tire is going to grip up, and I'm a little more willing to let my back tire slide a little as long as I get good traction climbing.
Right.
So.
Well, and a lot of the talk has been the biggest difference between the rapid and the grip has been in wet.
Yep.
And while some of this stuff in the wet can be kind of hairy, a lot of the Ramba system rides very well in the wet. There's not a lot of traction difference on the roots or the rocks. There are some more traveled sections of trail where roots get more polished, but a lot of the roots that have like the bark on them still, they have plenty of traction in the wet out here. So that's where I think, you know, potentially running that rapid compound on the back isn't going to be detrimental.
Whew.
Get a look at Kristy's Marji rig. So Kristy's also on our West End race team. And, well, is also just a good friend.
Oh yeah, I was a trailhead. I said Carol Jackson. We were on AMFM. Whoops. This is Carol Jackson.
Yep. Yeah, so we were just on AM/FM. That trail was named because there was an AM/FM radio found on it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yep. This trail, the Carol Jackson Trail, is actually named after one of the founding members of Ramba, or as they call them, the Founding Fathers. He had just finished building this trail and was taking a group of people out on it and showing them. And unfortunately, we lost Carol to a heart attack that day on this trail. And so the trail was initially going to be called Black Cat, if I recall. But after the unfortunate passing of our friend Carol, which is memorial is right here. It was renamed the Carroll Jackson Trail, and we have a memorial ride for him every year, which actually just happened a couple weeks ago. He was a fantastic guy, and it's nice to see that his name lives on with this trail and that it's part of the Marji Gesick, which is an absolutely iconic race. Or ride, adventure, because it's not a race for everybody like we just talked about.
Yeah. And the reason I really love Marji and come back year after year is because even for the people out front, it's more a race against the course than each other.
Right. There's a number of people who actually work together and encourage each other while they're being front runners. Because it is, yeah, it's testing yourself, testing your limits on a challenging bit of course for 100 plus miles. And for most people, I don't know what the average time is on the Marji, but
I would guess.
I know there's people finishing it in just before the cutoff.
Yeah,
At 7 in the morning the next day, or 8 in the morning.
18 to 19 hours.
Yeah. And the section of trail we're riding, this is a section of the Epic Trail. The Epic Trail is an 18-mile loop out here in Ramba. And when we have people come into the area that ask about riding the Epic Trail, we warn them to be ready for about 4.5 to 6 hours of riding if you're a fairly solid rider. So to see the riders that are coming in close to buckle pace or buckle pace, and to see the speeds that they're averaging through this terrain is incredible. I can tell you, if I wasn't on an e-bike, there's no way I'd be hanging with Kristy. And I'm not a terrible rider.
Maybe today, I'm pretty tired. I raced yesterday, so this is the final 20 on tired legs to simulate what it will feel like at the end of Marji.
What a perfect day to simulate it.
Yeah, my coach is really nice.
Not only is it the day after a hard effort for yourself at a race, but
it's like 90 degrees.
It's like 90 degrees.
And it
is hot.
40s last weekend.
And it's humid.
So if you're wondering why I'm breathing so hard, that'd be why.
So basically, tires wise, the Maxxis Icon, Vittoria Sierra, and from my experience so far, the Continental Dubnatal are all three really great options for tires to do the Marji with.
I would say, whatever you're comfortable with is fine, as long as they have good sidewall protection. That's probably the biggest thing. You're not gonna get away with running something that's super lightweight out here. You're just gonna flat. So.
Yeah, the trails are a little bit too rugged for a very light sidewall.
Yeah, so if you're gonna run an Aspen ST in the rear, if you think you're comfortable doing that, fine, but don't run the 170 TPI, you're gonna be sorry.
So now with tires out of the way, what would you say people need from a training standpoint to get ready for an event like the Marji, whether it's the 100, the 50, or the Mini? And we don't want to say just the 50 or just the Mini, because those are both very challenging. The Mini is what we're doing right now. The last 20 of the Marji. It is the hardest bit of the course. So if you're out here doing the Mini, kudos, that's some great work. If you're doing the 50, kudos, that's some great work. If you're taking on the 100, again, great work. These are all very challenging events. So from a training standpoint, what are some key things to get ready for an event like the Marji?
I think number one is mental toughness. Yeah, we talk about the physical training all day.
Yeah.
But if you aren't committed to finishing this course, you're not going to.
So and that kind of touches base to the first bonus episode that I did with Brandon and Val, where Val talked about her Marji experience, and it was all about the...
We go left, I think.
All about the mental side of things, right? Mindset. Having the mindset of a finisher.
Yep.
No matter what.
The cutoffs are long enough that you're never gonna get cut if you stay moving. And that means you could be walking your bike, you could be crawling at points, but if you stay moving, you're gonna finish.
Yep.
Unless you decide to quit.
And there's been years, well, and actually for the first, I want to say 5 years, the rate of attrition was somewhere in the neighborhood of a 60% mark. So only 40% of the people riding the Marji were finishing it. Now, I think that has actually changed a bit. More people are finishing it. I think there's more people willing to take on that challenge and challenge themselves mentally.
Yeah, I think the first few years people came into it expecting to buckle, and when they were 80 miles in and at 15 hours, they just gave up.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that, well, I'm not going to get the buckle, I'm not going to get that goal, so why should I finish it? Where the real thing should have been, well, okay, now the next goal is...
Yep.
And maybe you're adjusting it to 18 hours, 16 hours from that point where you're in, you know? And doing your best to hit that goal. Or adjusting it to where the goal is truly just, I need to now finish this.
Yeah.
Finish what you start is a big thing that the 906 Adventure crew talks about. So
yeah, I like to have 3 goals. You know, A goal for me is buckling.
Yep.
B goal, take time off my course time for last year, and, you know, self-improvement.
Yeah.
And C goal is just finish the damn thing.
Those are all...
Because at some point you're gonna want to quit.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I haven't done the Marji. Unfortunately, I was signed up for it, and circumstances at the shop with the Marji Gesick finishing right in front of our shop, and the work we have to do beforehand, staffing circumstances, unfortunately caused me to not be able to do the Marji. That is still my number one race goal, because I don't race, but if there's a race I want to do, it is the Marji 100. I want to challenge myself and to set a realistic goal and expectation and go out there and worst case scenario, just finish it.
Yeah.
But I have done the Crusher EX 100, which I was fortunate enough to do on the hottest day of the year.
So this is what you're used to. Getting cooked alive.
And I took a couple of wrong turns and added bonus miles in climbing, and at one point was suffering from some heat exhaustion and wasn't sure I could even continue. Was encouraged by my friend Mike, who was with me, and then got next to a thing called the rock cut, and that cold air rushing through the rock cut rejuvenated me. My body cooled down. I was able to go ahead and finish that event. But I had a moment, a very dark moment in there where I wanted to stop. And the reality was I only had about 24 miles to go.
So if anyone's wondering, this is actually where 100 miles hits in the course.
Ah, so this is your 100-mile mark.
I have made it here in the 12 hours.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I made it the 100 miles, but it is far from the end.
So mindset is your first training tip.
Yep.
What's the other ones?
Get on your bike for hours and hours in hills, all the hills. So my cousin who's doing the 100 this year lives in Florida. He doesn't have any hills. So my advice to him was to do repeats on the overpass, the bridge. So he's been going back and forth and going up and over the bridge, over the waterway like 12 times. So figure out where you have a bridge if you live somewhere flat, and just get those hill repeats in, because the course, man, it just gets harder and harder and hillier as you go.
All right, so seat time. Get the body used to pedaling. Get it used to pedaling uphill.
Yep.
And what's another one?
Ride as much technical stuff as you can. I mean, if you can get comfortable on technical descents, you're gonna save so much time. If you can come here and pre-ride, get out here and pre-ride.
Yep.
I think one of the biggest reasons we haven't seen a female buckle yet is because we haven't had a lot of pro females come back multiple years. And the course is so twisty and tight, and there's so many turns that you just lose so much time if you don't know the course. So if you can get out here and ride some of this stuff and just learn the course a little bit, that's huge. But if you can't, just getting comfortable with technical riding skills where you can.
And that could include just doing a bike clinic.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be go find all the technical trails in your area or come up in here and ride them. Although I would highly suggest doing some pre-riding of these trails if you can get here, if you're planning on doing the Marji. Another one that I would say is a huge one and will make the difference during your race day is have a solid nutrition plan.
Yeah, for sure.
Nutrition that you've tested, that you know works, and get yourself on a schedule, even if it's an alarm set, to where you need to eat something or drink something every time that alarm goes off. You run into a deficit, you're not recovering. Or you're taking a long time to recover.
Yep. And test yourself in different conditions. You know, if it's 90 degrees, you're gonna need a lot more water and sodium than if it's 50 degrees.
Yep. And this is one of the best parts.
I might not be talking for a while. I hate this climb. This to me is the most wasted part of the whole Marji course.
This 2-track climb.
To a trail that just sucks. It's not even a good downhill.
So you're saying the effort does not get it's not rewarded.
No, every other climb out here, it's like, all right, whatever. I get a fun downhill after. This one, it's like half uphill still. I don't know how that's possible, but it is.
I don't know that Ramba always obeys the laws of physics.
No.
No. So, I mean, realistically, I think we've covered a lot of, you know, what it takes to do the Marji. Your training, you have a coach that gives you a training plan. You've got a good background in nutrition, at least playing with it, right?
Yep.
And you know what works for you.
Yep.
And would you ever try anything the day of?
Nope. I've got my nutrition plan pretty solid. So to be honest, I'm not really open to changing it no matter what.
Yeah.
But I would play with things at least a few weeks out from the race.
Yep.
Not day of.
Not the day of.
Nothing new on race day.
So Kristy,
Yeah.
let's do a Marji pre-ride recap.
Whew. All right.
So basically, the bike, something you're comfortable on. We know people that have done them on bigger travel bikes like Switchblades. They've done them on hardtail single speeds. So
Evan one year did it on a full rigid.
Yep. Yep. So just find a bike that you're comfortable on, that you can spend hours on, and give it a go. Try out those tires we talked about. See which ones you like best for conditions. All three are very good options. Again, that's the Icon, the Vittoria Mazza,
Not
and the
Mazza.
Continental Dubnatal.
Victoria Sierra, not Mazza.
Sierra. I said, yeah, did I say Mazda? I'm
Yep.
sorry. Yeah, Vittoria Sierra. Thanks for the correction.
Yep.
To prepare for Marji, or races like it, which there kind of aren't any, get your mindset right. Get your body used to being uncomfortable in spots.
The other part about mindset that I'll say is, if you get to a spot like this that I just messed up, climb that I know I can make,
Yep.
shake it off, push your bike to the top, and get back on.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of that.
Don't
When
let
you're
that
fatigued.
stuff get to you.
There's no point in letting it get to you.
Wait me. Yeah, don't let that stuff affect you. They're small moments in a big picture.
Yep. The more important part is just getting back on your bike quickly when you
Being
can.
sad, angry, frustrated, that's never going to make the situation better.
Nope.
Have a positive attitude about things. Be okay with not being perfect.
Maybe eat something if you're feeling emotional.
And then just enjoy.
Yeah.
Get the nutrition right. Get the training right.
One thing we didn't touch on for bike setup
Yeah.
is chain rings out here. I would say run smaller than what you are used to running. I'm running a 30 oval right now. I've ran a 28 oval for this race.
Yeah.
The year I think I ran a 28. No one needs to be running bigger than a 32, I can tell you that. I don't even think Acker runs bigger than that. So
Yeah.
there's
I feel
very
like
few
with
spots where you're
the-
gonna be pedaling.
elevation change, there's very few gains to be said for having the larger chain ring, but there's a lot of losses. Oh, hello.
Hi. That's not the line.
There's a lot of losses not doing, having too big of a chain ring. So with that, we're gonna wrap up the pre-ride Marji podcast or ridecast bonus episode. Thanks, Kristy.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been great riding with you.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too.